It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books of the week this week, and it's going to be a short conversation because there ain't much to talk about, but we do have Drew here to at least talk about the 4 books we're willing to recommend.
Yeah, the 4 books we're willing to recommend. So Kyle and I, when we would do the best of the week a couple years ago, we'd always have 3 categories: recommend, meh, and skip it. This week is very much a meh week at best.
Meh and skip it week.
Meh and skip it, yes.
Yeah, especially if you're reading Marvel, they had a lot of skip-roadies in there. One book we will not be recommending from Marvel Comics, All-New Venom, #1, from Al Ewing, and I believe it's Carlos Gomez as the artist. And I don't even know where to start with this book. If you didn't invest in Venom War, which I most certainly didn't, and I don't think anybody was really reading this, it's not a jumping on point. It's a continuation of all the stuff that he was doing, and the only thing the book has going for it, if you even want to consider that, is that there's a new person in the Venom symbiote, and the only thing the book does is tease who it may be the entire time. It's like 24 pages of absolute nothing. I will give the artist, Carlos Gomez, this. You know, the Venom symbiote suit looks fine with gold accents. I'm not surprised. Black and gold goes together.
Go figure. Who would have thought that? You would have thought maybe like the Power Rangers or something did something similar to that back in the day. But yeah, the one positive I can say about this book is the art. It is too good for this comic. He needs to be in the indie scene away from this crap. But yeah, this issue was something, and I have a lot of thoughts. I got more thoughts on this book than most of the other books we're going to recommend this week. The only thing more bewildering than this issue are the David Berkowitz and Mark David Chapman level of reviews on League of Comic Geeks for this comic. There are people who love this book, and I don't understand why. First up, you have there's a U.S. federal trial going on for Madame Mask, and if you weren't familiar with this, you have no idea what the hell is going on. And then you got the tone of this book. Is this supposed to be a comedy? Are we supposed to be taking this seriously? Because you think about the setup of this book, it's laughably ludicrous, which makes me think we're supposed to be laughing. And on top of that, the jokes in this, the attempts at humor, it's Batman and Robin levels of offensively unfunny comedy. And the mystery of Venom, I don't care at this point who it is, and neither should you or the reader. I mean, you know why? Because we veered so far away from what Venom is and what Venom is supposed to be at its core, that this all-new Venom isn't Venom. I mean, if you're expecting harsh violence, action, brain-eating, viciousness, this is not the comic for you. If you're expecting generic superhero person on the level of Illuminator from the 90s, yeah, this is for you. It's Venom in name only and logo only. The identity does not matter.
It's time for Al Ewing to put Dylan Brock to bed. Donny Cates was able to do something with the character and make him interesting in his series. Al Ewing has completely ruined the character, put him to sleep, get rid of him for 5 years. The only thing I would want less than that stupid, bratty, weird Kurt Cobain version of Dylan Brock in the end of this book was Paul from ASM and Jackpot. Talk about giving me reasons to walk away sight unseen. Such unwanted guest in any book whatsoever. And why are they creeping outside of the pages of ASM? They already ruined one series.
Al Ewing is definitely the problem with this. And yeah, what you said, one of the other problems I had with this was Paul. Who the hell is asking for more Paul, and why? Marvel is really trying to sell the fans on Paul. He's pretty much, in all case and purposes, the new Kamala Khan. They will not stop until he has his own series and superpowers. Just watch. It's going to happen. But, I mean, we do know how Al Ewing does not like the fans. And so he could be doing this, on purpose to spite the fans and piss us off. And the fact that he and Mary Jane are now parenting Dylan, I want nothing to do with this. And the other thing that Al has done that I really, really detest is the treatment of Rick Jones. If there's one character I felt so bad for and how they've been treated over the last 10 years, it's Rick Jones. He got murdered during Nick Spencer's Secret Empire run and turned into the toxic waste guy from RoboCop thanks to Al Ewing on his Hulk run, that according to these rocket scientists, we can't and shouldn't take him seriously. The only true creative who's written him seriously and with a modicum of respect is Peter David on his Captain Marvel run. And Al Ewing is no Peter David.
Rick Jones is probably the only reason to read the book or even buy it. And he's done no justice or service in this thing. The jokes are absolutely terrible when he's introduced with Robbie and
wearing a Marvel comic shirt. What the hell's going on with that?
Exactly. Definitely be skipping out on All New Venom. It absolutely sucks in absolutely new ways. Didn't think that was possible. So let's get to the stuff we are going to recommend. Starting out with Nightclub 2, #4, Mark Miller writing, Juan Ramirez on art. And we see the fallout of vampirism getting out into the local populace, specifically this gang of thugs and hoodlums that tricked, I believe his name is Sam, into giving them the gift of, I guess, of vampirism, taking over local gangs and taking out the people they don't like by feeding them the monkeys and lions and stuff. And they're even going so far as to like torment Sam's grandfather, telling him that he's dead, threatening to kill family members of people that they don't like. And they have gone so far off the reservation. You really hate all these people. And this is definitely my pick of the best of the comic book of the week.
The jocks in this, they are straight up evil. And if there's one thing that, well, there's many things Mark Millar can do right. One of them is writing villains, and he writes truly detestable villains. These are completely irredeemable villains. We're not talking Marvel redeemable villains. These are irredeemable, so evil that no, there's no coming back from this. And yeah, there's a moment in here that really reminds me of Goodfellas when they go to the zoo, and I loved it, and it was a lot of fun. And but we do have one hero remaining in this who's clearly outnumbered. What's she going to do? Is she going to run away? And if she fights, how's she going to do it? You got to read to find out. Desperate times call for desperate and creative measures, and this was a lot of fun to read, and it's a lot of fun to recommend.
So what do you think's better? I think Nemesis Rogues Gallery and Nightclub 2 are the two best Millarworld books we're getting now. Not that Prodigy, Slaves of Mars, and Magic Order 5 aren't good, but I think those are the two that I think are really at the top. And I'm finding it very difficult to decide which one is better between Nightclub and Nemesis Rogues Gallery.
Honestly, between those two, I got to give it to Nightclub because it's a new take on vampires, and he's not afraid to push the envelope on the violence, the gore, the sex, and I love Mark Millar for that. You never know what to expect with Mark.
I might be with you. I think it might be nosing ahead of Nemesis Rogues Gallery that I like a lot. But speaking of Millarworld, we do have Magic Order 5, number 3, Mark Millar writing, Matteo Buffanghi on art. There's some really weird stuff going on with the art with like this demon dog or a demon trapped in a dog that keeps taking new owners, and the dog's face like imposes on the owner. So it's like a human with the dog face. And they've been hired, I guess, to go and murder Cordelia, the main character in here. And some really weird stuff. I'm really loving this new character, Clay. And we also get introduced to another character that's also been hired to murder her. And it's not looking good for Cordelia and the Magic Order crew here. But I'm digging the dude with the hat. He's cool.
Yes, he is. I love this character. But this issue in this current run has been insane. But of course, this all goes back to the first volume of the Magic Order when Cordelia used the black magic. I mean, there's always a price to pay. And in this volume, it's time to pay up. And like you said, the villainous dog demon creature in this, I love it. Mark has been killing it with all his books, but this series, I mean, I think we're seeing him at his most vicious and creative in the Magic Order. Because when you're involving magic, you got to be creative. You need to be creative. Otherwise, you're just another 2024 Marvel or DC comic. I mean, you never know what to expect with Mark Millar in his comics, but this series, you really never know what to expect. Like you said, you get a demon dog coming after Cordelia. It takes over spirits. I'm like, what the hell? Who thinks of that? But it's a great and rare thing to find. This is another strong recommend. A Magic Order is a lot of fun. You really don't need to read any of the prior issues to jump in on this.
Absolutely not. Really enjoying that stuff. And thank goodness we got some Millarworld. Energon, there's definitely a few universes that are keeping the comic book industry interesting right now. Millarworld's one of them. Also going to recommend Conan the Barbarian, Battle of the Blackstone, number 4, Jim Zub writing, Jonas Scharf on art. The final chapter in the Battle of Blackstone, kind of mini Robert E. Howard universe characters event, obviously starring Conan the Barbarian, but we get lots of healthy doses of Solomon Kane in this one. In fact, I know you liked Solomon Kane in the previous issue, but I thought this was the one where he really got to stand at the forefront and take over and be the really awesome character with the really awesome hero moments in it. And we do get to see Conan brought back from the wounds that he suffered at the end of the last issue. And in the end, it appears the end state of the comic book has awakened a new enormous threat to this universe here. Really strong stuff from Jim.
Oh, very, very strong stuff. Yeah, this is the conclusion to the first crossover event with Conan and Titan Comics. And I got to say, 2025 is looking incredibly bright for Conan, Titan, as well as Solomon Kane. Solomon Kane is getting his own series. I can't wait. Hop on that train before you get left in the dust. But yeah, I mean, this issue, this is the conclusion to the first event. Will this motley crew survive? Who will survive? And surely there's nothing more evil than what they're facing right now in this event, right? You got to read to find out. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, action-packed, character building, because there is a lot of character building in this event, because he's introducing some new characters and some characters that did exist before that new readers may not be familiar with. And thankfully, characters like Solomon Kane are getting their own series next year. I gotta recommend this any day and every day. If you're not reading Conan, anything from Titan Comics, hop on the train. You will not be disappointed. These are truly great legacy characters. And honestly, I can't recall a time in the past where we've had pulp characters such as Conan, Flash Gordon, Solomon Kane be at the forefront of the comics. They have the best books out of the industry. This is the first, I think, ever in 100 years.
It's been a very, very good time if you like some of the older stuff, and certainly if you like 80s cartoons as well. If you like the nostalgia trips, done very, very well. This is the time for you. The final recommendation this week, Prairie Gods #3, Shane Connery Volk writing and illustrating. This is an anthology book, certainly got some horror elements to it. Wasn't expecting this book to go where it did, but we have the initial race car driver guy. I think his name is Bill, but I might be wrong on that one. He goes to visit an old friend, and the man is celebrating like his 120th birthday or something like that. And he starts to tell the story about when he was in the war and why he almost died before he turned 20. It's the day before his 20th birthday. It's 1917. He's on the front lines in World War I. And he's been told it's time to charge the Germans to take a few more inches of battle space. Trench warfare, one of the grossest things ever. And he has a very wild encounter. Is it an alien? Is it somebody from the future? I don't know exactly what it is. And the gritty artwork from Shane Connery Volk is just something to behold. This dude is getting better and better and better every single issue that he does. Started out with Nottingham, getting better in Prairie Gods.
One of the big selling points in this issue is Shane Connery Volk's art. Granted, he's writing it, but his art in this, the style fits like a glove with this World War I story. It's grisly, it's nasty, and it's violent. He's turning into a very solid storyteller with this series, and he's only getting better. He's a superstar on the rise. Yeah, you said we get a 124-year-old man who's recounting his time in the trenches in World War I, the war to end all wars, and it carries how the man describes being in the trenches, what was happening, and it was happening in his life, with the other soldiers. There's a great degree of verisimilitude to it. And then we get the Twilight Zone twist right after that. And I don't want to spoil what happens, but it takes a hard turn, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it for that. This is a very, very fun series. If you guys aren't familiar with Shane Connery Volk, write down that name, get his books now. You're not going to regret it. He is a superstar on the rise.
And that's it for our comic book recommendations. We got nothing to recommend from Marvel, who had a terrible week. And we got nothing to recommend from DC, who didn't have a terrible week, but didn't have a good week either. I don't even know if this is disappointing at this. It's almost like business as usual, especially for Marvel. They rarely put out anything worth recommending anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, really, I think we're really seeing that most of the creatives are staying in the indie scene. And we're seeing that right now in Dark Horse, with Image, Mad Cave. This is where a lot of the big names, the future superstars are. It's not at Marvel and DC.
And that is unfortunate. If you would like a longer version of this and covering more stuff, I do want to invite you to come visit me on Think Critical Patreon. My good friend Jim from Weird Science and I do the Hot or Not comic rundown, where we talk about all the major releases from Marvel, DC, indie comic books, and we tell you what's good, what's bad, and all the stuff in between and why we feel that way. If you would like a more extended version of this, you got to check that out. There's a link in the video description. Hope to see you on the Patreon very, very soon.